Hey, Russ. Hey, man, sorry it's taken me a little bit to get back to you. Thank you for sending those videos. They were helpful. I do have a couple of questions, though. Sometimes when the camera flips, like we're doing like selfie mode, the way that it's then presented, it's mirrored. So what it looked like when you were pointing to your shoulder and elbow is it looked like you were pointing to your left shoulder and elbow. So I just want to be clear, are you feeling the discomfort when you descend into position? Which perfect terminology, man. When you descend into position, are you feeling it on your left shoulder or are you feeling it on your right shoulder? Also, if you are feeling it on your left shoulder, because I think you mentioned your right shoulder, are you feeling anything there? Number two, that elbow, where are you feeling that medial epicondylitis or that golfer's elbow? Is it on the left or is it on the right? And if it is on the left, are you experiencing anything on the right? Dude, so if you wouldn't mind just clarifying that. I want to go back to just something that we discussed as far as position, right? In the last video, and so much of it, a lot of those issues, especially when you're descending into position, a lot of those issues can be solved with optimizing position. I call it, and actually I stole this from a few people, but I call it alignment, breathing, and control. God, I forget the dude's name, but really phenomenal chiropractor and strength coach. At any rate, he uses the terminology. I think it's perfect. So much of it goes back to, most everything goes back to your ability to maintain optimal alignment, your ability to breathe, and we'll get to that in just a second, and then your ability to control those joints. And if you're maintaining alignment and you're maintaining a nice good breath, you're gonna have a greater chance of controlling that joint, especially when you lower down, or you're probably aware of this term, maintaining or managing the eccentric control over that tissue, right? In this case, it's your shoulder, your anterior deltoid, your pecs, and so forth, and your tricep. So, number one, alignment, position becomes really important. And again, we talked about this in the last video. When you're doing presses, right, you want to press from the ground up. And so it really is kind of creating this arch structure. You're pressing through the feet, squeezing the butt, arching the back, lifting through the chest. And so I want to be here when I go to press. Now I want to be here, but I don't want to be here. I don't want to be arching my back. I want to have the butt tight, drive through the floor, and I'm pressing from here, right? Same thing with your push, like that, the hammer strength is awesome, because you're kind of already doing it, right? Get into that arch position, drive to the feet, squeeze the butt, lift through the chest, right? And you're in that, you're optimizing the mechanics of that shoulder joint. Now here's the tricky thing, you're kind of robbing a little from Paul to pay Peter, because by being in this position, you have the potential of getting into your low back and kind of exacerbating, using that chain of muscles to create stability. So there's a little bit of a price to pay there, but I think, and if you start to feel anything in your low back by taking some of this stuff on, let's reconsider how we're doing things or how we're approaching things. But I think that's number one, man, is just maintain that optimal alignment. This is just a hell of a lot better position for that shoulder joint to be in, especially coming into and out of the bottom of that press than this is. Right here, my shoulder's going to glide forward. Notice my elbow goes back. I got shitty mechanics. Right, I always want that forearm. I want that forearm vertical, right? And basically, I want that forearm to be perpendicular to the floor the entire time. Wrist and elbow stay aligned as you go to press. That's going to optimize the mechanics. Also, I want you to notice what happens here, whether you're pressing or pushing. Watch my upper arm bone. As I go to press up, what it's going to do is it's going to internally rotate to get up overhead. And as I come down, it's going to externally rotate. It may be kind of hard to differentiate that. As you press, you're going to internally rotate. As you come down, you're going to externally rotate. So making sure that you can do that is really, really important. Hence, like some of the band, like external rotation stuff, that stuff's really helpful, especially to prepare your body for those lifts, like doing that. I think I showed this in that last video. I mean, simple stuff, man, like, band external rotation, doing a little bit of an easy doorway pec stretch where you got your forearm on the frame in a doorway frame, right? And you're kind of breathing into the pecs, right? It can be really helpful. But again, what we always want to go back to those three things: alignment, breathing, and control. And so here's the thing. This is the thing that I think is really most important, and hopefully you can apply this to all your lifting, is we discussed optimizing position. Now when you're doing push-ups, it's a little bit different, but it seems to be you're doing a lot of the hammer strength push, and you're doing the overhead press. Perfect. We can optimize that position, right? By driving to the floor, squeezing the glutes, lifting to the chest, no matter what you're doing. So we got our alignment. Now the next thing that's really important, man, and this goes for squats, deadlifts, presses, pushes. Your body is what we call your pelvis and your rib cage specifically are what we call a tensegrity model. This is an example. It's a kid's toy of a tensegrity model. So the bones or compressive structures, right? They can move. The joints are designed to move and expand. And what kind of helps regulate that is the tension structures. Now, and I'm going to send you an article regarding this. Again, this is the article pertains to squatting, but the same mechanics, the same principles apply to your pressing. Your diaphragm's here. This whole portion right here is lung and fluid and organs. So when you inhale, I'll give you an example. When you inhale, the tensegrity model expands, right? When you exhale, it releases, right? Your rib cage is the same way. Your pelvis is the same way. So as you inhale into your upper chest, upper lungs, upper rib cage, you're getting expansion. Now, why is that important? Because on the back side of that rib cage, and in the front too, your scapula, shoulder blade, and clavicle, this whole shoulder girdle is going to expand, be pushed out, and it responds to pressure. So the muscle, basically the pressure, you have these little sensory organelles that sense pressure, kind of like a thermostat would temperature in a room. And it basically tells the brain, hey, all clear. We got good pressure, good stability. We can let that joint move. We can lower, into this externally rotated position without kind of trying to use musculature to clamp that down to protect it. So that inhale becomes really important, and inhaling into this space, upper chest, upper lungs, upper rib cage, becomes really important. So when you go to press, and it becomes important, right? Because again, if that shoulder girdle feels safe, if it feels the pressure, the outward expansion of that rib cage, it knows there's going to be space in that shoulder joint. It tells the nervous system that. The nervous system gives the all clear to the muscles, the rotator cuff muscles, amongst others, to allow for this external rotation. So what you can play with, Russ, start light on this, is as you lower down, before lowering down, what I often tell people, and keep the reps pretty low as you start off with this, keep the weight low and keep the reps low. But you can start, think here, I'm in my structure, right? I got my alignment. I'm going to start the inhale. I'm going to feel that expansion, especially anterior to posterior, front to back in this upper chest, upper lungs, upper rib cage. I'm going to wait until I feel it. And once I feel that expansion, I'm going to lower the bar down. And what I like to do, especially if I'm doing like 5 to 8 reps, is I'm going to start the inhale just that little bit before I start to lower, but I'm going to continue the inhalation as I lower down into position. Start the breath, feel the expansion, lower down, exhale, press. Start the breath, feel the expansion, lower down, exhale, press. So when you get that inhale, you can kind of see it here if you watch. If I get a nice, here I got my structure, if I get a nice good inhale, watch my hand. It's not crazy, but it starts to rotate. It starts to externally rotate at that humerus because of the sternum starts to lift and I start to get expansion back there. The same thing happens when you're doing your presses, right? Same idea, right? Create your structure, start the inhale, feel that expansion front to back in that upper chest, upper lungs, upper rib cage. Lower into position, exhale, press. In my experience, when you get that nice good inhalation, you just have more freedom at that joint. It's gonna allow for more external rotation. The reason why I asked you if it was left versus right is often the left side is the one that tends to exhibit less external rotation. And that's not always the case, especially righty versus lefty. And also if there's a certain sports dominance. So if you're used to throwing with your left side, then all bets are off, and that may not be the case. But the same kind of principles apply. Try to get that nice good breath into that upper chest, upper lungs, upper rib cage prior to descending into position. Again, I would keep the weight low to start off with, and I would keep the reps low. I would probably do no more than 5, maybe up to 8 reps maximum, and then, but keep it around that range because you'll start to gas out a little bit. The heavier the weight, the more breath you're gonna need to manage that load into position. The lighter the weight, the higher the reps, the less the breath you're gonna need, and the more you're gonna kind of wanna inhale down, exhale out. But start with like a sets of 5 first, and really focus on starting that inhale just that little bit before you lower. My cue is always start the breath, feel the expansion, lower into position, exhale as you drive out. Hey man, dude, I hope this is helpful. Again, if you wouldn't mind, just get back to me clarifying whether it's left versus right. Just again, based on the way that the videos have it presented, it looks like you're pointing on your left side. Dude, also, hey man, I'm so sorry to hear about you guys. Let's set up a time to talk, man. I'm sure it'd be nice to kind of get stuff off your chest, and brother, it'd be just great to catch up with you. So let's try to connect soon. All right, brother. I love you, man. I hope you're doing well. And I'll talk to you soon.